before where Jesus.
So then why the mentorship? Because this has been organized by the church. And therefore, it is always good to encourage us that who is our example in this life as we await upon his second return. And that is why I said we will have to read Matthew 4:19, where the Lord said, "Follow me and I will make you fishers of men." Jesus mentored his disciples so that they could one day take charge of his ministries. And I said HR is storytelling, and therefore I'm not going to read everything, but it's for purposes of sharing. The topic of the day, brothers and sisters, is getting ready for interview. And that is the topic of the day. And in my wisdom, I thought of again anchoring it in one or two Bible verses on the, getting encouragement. Because what I was saying here is that more often than not, we panic or go through experience some butterflies, or, we get frightened because of the interview that is going to come in the Word of God to give us courage to be able to, I don't want to speak now. And then when we talk about prayer, when we use pictorials in presentations, there's somebody who will look at this person praying. And it is my prayer that when our professionals or even those of us who are still working and will wish to change jobs, it is always good to anchor very wide. With regards to this topic, this is a summary because interviewing, meaning the entire process has gone through until now. We are talking about the successful candidates who've been shortlisted to appear before a panel. And therefore, we need to be serious when we are appearing and stay professional, because it's a formal meeting. It's a conversation between us, those who are looking for jobs, and the employers. So what are you supposed to bring to a job interview? These are a must for us to carry. You need to carry a copy of your CV, curriculum vitae, or CV in short, or resume. And we need to, one of the slides as we move down will show us the difference between the two. Always, you are encouraged to carry a pen and paper, and the prior planning for getting ready for interview, you ought to have researched some of the questions, commonly asked questions, with answers. But remember, during the interview, you are not going to refer to them. They should be at the back of your mind. And depending on the waiting, it's always good to have some mint, for fresh breath, so that when you get into the boardroom or the interviewing room, you have what it needs in terms of your breath. A bag, that one I'll show you as we move down. So these are some of the interview essentials to prioritize with regards to planning your interview. Here you can see, brothers and sisters, we have official suit. And here, tonight, I'm going to emphasize on formal interview. Pen and paper, I've talked about that. But when I get back, you are seeing where the shirt and the tie and the coat. So my brothers, you need to be very cautious and careful with regards to what I'm sharing there. My fellow brothers, again here, you must wear a belt, and this belt must be matching with your pair of shoes. Never forget to wear clean socks. Pair of socks here, they should be clean and not torn. These are ties, various, and if you pick a tie, it needs to match with a shirt. And remember, when we are appearing for formal interviews, we are advised to wear dark, cool colors. We talk of black, gray, navy blue. These are like the bag here, brothers and sisters here, for men. Sometimes we get discouraged or disappointed in the boardroom when we want to review your academic certificates or testimonials, and we find that you have carried an old envelope. So this is one of, carry something that is presentable where you are storing your academic certificates. If you do not have this, these folders cut across both for men, male and female. Avoid casual wear, brothers and sisters, as much as possible. You see, these are jeans. These are sport shoes over here. Jeans there. We have t-shirts. We have caps or clips. And these bags. These are not meant for interviewing process when you appear for interview. My fellow sisters, look at the shoes. They are pretty well done, but not for interview. Maybe for some wedding of some sort. Please avoid this. And even the sport shoes cut across both gender, that is male and female. My fellow sisters, once again, look at that heel and look at the shape of the shoe, especially this one, and the boots. I know they are good for us to wear, but you must be very categorical on where you're wearing this kind of shoes too. If you are wearing these two, an interview for like a hairdresser, or some restaurant of some sort, it depends. So for formal, like bank, office, and all this, as much as possible, avoid and wear what I'm showing here, but this is not limited to what you must wear. You need to wear some shoes that are comfortable. My fellow brothers, here you go. Those are the shoes that are recommended for interview. My fellow sisters, please may we not appear in a formal interview like this. But I still wonder, even if it is an informal interview, where we would want to appear like this. You know, fellow Christians, this is for your thoughts and see why sometimes we are not shortlisted or picked as best candidate, depending on the nature of the interview. So for here, for where we have a lady wearing a skirt suit, it depends. Some countries, religion, and all this, but if you must wear a trouser suit, you are seeing where it is reaching off down here. And look through. Look at the men, look at the button, look at the colors, and look at the length of the coat where it is reaching. It is not up here, nor is it down here. Now, look, these are some of the samples that you have to get. You necessarily, depending on your budget, you necessarily don't have to go buy very expensive outfits. In the market, you can get something that is within your means. My fellow sisters, dresses are on fashion. You can wear a dress. My emphasis here is that let it be below the knee. The worst it can reach is on the knee. Look at those colors I'm talking about, navy blue and gray, and look at the length of the skirt. We can wear dresses, look here, can wear this, and look here, you are all seeing. When we get to the handbags, as much as possible, ladies, my fellow sisters, let us avoid very bright colored handbags to the interview because of distraction, and you're likely to be out of place, or rather be misplaced. When we talk about our hair style for a professional look, please kindly tie it. Let your hair fall back, okay? Like what I'm doing now. If you want to see a natural one, look here. This is what you do, and you tie. So then you're able to project your face, and your ears need to be seen so that when you're interacting and you have your eye contact there, you're able to communicate effectively. Of course, because of Data Protection Act of 2019, I have hidden the faces of these. So these are some of the hairstyles. You look through for the ones who must put on braids. Look, some of these, again, you have to be very cautious on where you're going. You are seeing some natural hair here. This natural hair here is also recommended, but ensure it is clean and well combed. We talk of long hair, whether artificial or natural. As much as possible, let's take care of the length. If the Lord has made or caused our hair to grow so long, then we need to let it fall back, but we tie. And then some of the colors we wear also distract sometimes. Excessive jewelry, for those who must, depending on your Christian beliefs, like the Adventist jewelry, they do not wear. But in the event that there are those who must wear, you really must restrain to very minimal. Like the first one here are bangles, and you're putting your hands on the table, expressing yourself. These are the earrings that will be dangling when you are talking about yourself and responding to questions, and chain and all this. So this has to do with jewelry. When we talk about our nails, you see, it is good for them to be, to be kept clean and to the shape that is professional. But when you have this, then there's a challenge. There's a challenge because when you look here, you are seeing where my cursor is going round. You can see here, honestly, let's think about this and pray. So simple, decent, modest, fearfully and wonderfully made. And now that is now the entire, the pictorials I've shared here so that we don't forget what I'm talking about, because we need to describe, as I said earlier, as in HR, do a lot of talking to bring the point home. So now the interviewing process, for it to go to the end, these are all that we need to do. The job analysis, the job description, young people, job description, the one that comprises of your duties and responsibilities. And in the job advert, it is usually there. So this is the process all the way job advert until separation down here. And therefore, after you have been interviewed, that is the first bullet up there. Of course, there is the academic certificates authentication, because in Kenya right now, there is this process in the government sector that which the private sector has borrowed largely, so to speak, where you are required, mandated, compelled to present academic certificates that are authentic. And that is why now the recruitment process is taking a little longer, because all employers must go through this process to ensure that the people they're bringing on board have what it takes. Okay. How do you prepare for this interview then? This is ZPA who has been shortlisted for an interview in company XYZ. You must research the company, about the company that has called you invited you for the interview. Understand the culture of the institution, mission, vision, values, mandate. You can actually go to the internet organizational website and read, because they are presented, they are provided there already. So you get ready. Even if the panelists do not ask you about this, you already know what it is. Job description, I've talked about it. I've also talked about the Q&A. Number 4, practice, practice, practice. I have talked about dress. You practice your answers. Tell me about myself. I will get down there. Arrive early, and at the end of the interview, please make follow-up. What are some of the do's before the interview? Please arrive at the venue ahead of time. Not on time, but ahead of time. When I talk about supplies, these are the ones I showed you before. Your CV. There's no harm in carrying a copy of your application in the event you forgot what you applied for, but it is not upon you that time to do what? To refer to your JD or job description during the interview. It is assumed that it is already in your head. Our mobile phones, especially young people, please, my brothers and sisters, switch them off if you cannot manage on them being on silent. Perfumes. We don't want to hear that Madam Mary is walking from there. Mr. John is the one around, with your perfume. You leave the boardroom and it's like, okay, that candidate actually was here. And above all, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a positive attitude. I say enter with a positive attitude. This one, we can have another season so that we discuss or have a conversation on the positive attitude when you enter a boardroom for interview. Interview day. Please plan your travel arrangements. Look at the venue, where you stay, the traffic jam, and all this, because there's no excuse that because of traffic jam, you got late. I've talked about dress, documents, carry copies of your resumes, and above all, ladies and gentlemen, be patient, be polite, be kind, especially from the security section and the kind of people you get, the front office managers who usher you in. How do you then impress a hiring manager during the interview? We have talked about culture and research. Demonstrate your relevant experience. If you're a HR practitioner, you need to speak about the HR itself, not finance or marketing, because they will interview you on the job advert. Be enthusiastic. Show that you're easy to work. Be precise in your responses. Ask thoughtful questions. and talk to the people at the company before the interview, find out this institution, where is it and what happens there. This is a technique we even use during counseling. Solar. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit upright. Sit upright, open posture, lean forward, maintain eye contact. Lastly, relax. But when we say relax, please see where your feet are and your eyes and your neck and shoulders, so that you are not appearing like you are in a salon and someone is washing your hair or something else is happening to you. So this is a very critical, fundamental technique in interviews and in counseling and coaching when we do this, especially counseling. This one I will not read, but basically what I want to talk about, there's a difference between a resume and a CV. A CV, you can have 10, 12 pages, but a resume is precise. It's one page, usually for, what is it called? For headhunting. And these are the ones I'm not going to read, but I can share this with Kate to share all these presentations to all of us. These are some of the common interviews, and the ones I've highlighted in yellow here are the ones for young people, the entrance into the job market, one-on-one interviews, panel cuts across CADA, informal interviews, phone. You need to study all types of interviews, and upon selection, you need to find out what sort of interview you are going to be taken through. So depending on the level, we have pre-screening tests. Psychometric, there's an exercise where we are able to tell on a candidate's temperament, okay? Some levels interview end at HR, like the interns, for example, and then the top interns and lower cadre can end at the hiring, the managers level, but the top management gets to the board of directors level. And most commonly asked questions is, tell me something about yourself. How did you hear about this position? Why do you want to work here? Why did you decide to apply for this job? What is your greatest strength and weaknesses? And what do you know about the organization? What do you say at the beginning of your interview, brothers and sisters? It's nice to meet you. And when you're answering, thank you for meeting with me today or tonight. I have read the job description. So the facial expression you give, the tone, and your body posture will tell so much about this. And in this conversation, brothers and sisters, the interviewers are looking for competence. They are looking for your confidence and credibility in terms of value addition to this organization. That is what I have explained. Even as we learn through the interviewing process, what are some of the 6 P's? Prepare, practice, presentation. Presentation could be a PowerPoint presentation or the way you speak, the way you articulate questions in the boardroom. It has to be a powerful interview, regardless of the cadre of the interview you're attending. And ponder the position as we do all this. First impression lasts. First impression lasts. So what does it mean then, brothers and sisters? You ought to have gotten enough sleep a day before, so that when you appear in the boardroom, your eyes are not swollen and you're dozing off. I've talked about dress now and again. I've talked about you coming early. Smile, gentle smile. Introduce yourself respectively, okay? Ask questions, interview stages. By the time you're coming to the interview, of course, you get into the boardroom, brothers and sisters, the introduction, the chairman of the session takes up the session, introductions take place, and then, of course, the chairperson there, then there is information gathering where they will say, they allocate them questions, who will ask which question, and then they wrap up the session. So, introduction. My name, never say my names are. My name is Zipporah Onyoni. I completed my MSc, but I have to put it in full, or bachelor's business administration, my bachelor's, you have to call what you have been trained on. And I have 20, 35, or no work experience, depending on the job itself. And while working for company X, I develop, you talk about your soft skills. How do I introduce then? When you're introducing yourself, brothers and sisters, be polite and confident. Be fluent and audible. Practice, practice, practice. Start with a greeting. And what happens, say your name. Before you even go to your current job, when you enter the boardroom, do not stretch your hand. And it's good to observe and see. And now with the aspect of, since the COVID-19 COVID-19 era, most people are not keen to shaking a hand. But if they stretch, offer, please do. And when you're greeting somebody, please make it firm. Firm, okay? What is the best answer for? You see, like when they're asking you, tell me about myself. What do I speak then? This is the time for you to give a summary of your work experience. And it has to be related. Talk about your education. What value are you gonna bring to this institution? In the event that you are asked to describe yourself in 3 words or 10 or 5, these are some of the words that you will pick if you find them appropriate to you. I'm industrious, diligent, self-motivated, resilient has been cutting across, especially after the pandemic. Loyal, I'm a high achiever. I'm result-driven. I'm resourceful. I'm dependable. Work with minimum supervision. Okay? Why did you leave your last job? Brothers and sisters, please never say, I got bored. We often get this from younger people. This is generation what? Generation Z. I got bored. The environment was toxic. I was not getting along with my boss. You shouldn't say this. Okay? Fresh challenge. Somebody wants to talk? Then you could talk about this institution or organization that was launching a product, let's say Safaricom or any other, even in our Education Loans Board, where we have various products for students. Then you say, after looking at this and looking at the job advert, I thought I am the best fit for the position. Why did you apply for this job? Brothers and sisters, this is where now you want to shine. Express your passion. Don't start thinking about passionometer. Passion, because by expressing yourself like this, the panelists are able to tell. Appear like you enjoy your job and you're ready to take up responsibilities as they come in your new role. Describe your background and how you will succeed in this role. Let's talk about salaries. How do I answer my expected salary? Brethren, brothers and sisters, always do a research. If you've been shortlisted in a private company, find out from the peer companies what is the salary range for the position you are applying. Diplomatically, you could turn around the question. When you're calm and you're talking about your salary, you could say, okay, fine, but how much are you offering? And also when you got into the interviewing room, you have observed, God has given you wisdom. So you can tell the weather in the room. What are your salary expectations? More often than not, it is when you're not sure, it's always good to give ranges between 100 or 200, between 50, 20, 10, 5. That depends on that job, because it is, you ought to have carried out that research. And in the government, in the public sector, we have salary structures. So even if a candidate will say this, of course, it reaches a point where we disclose and say, you requested for this, and this is what we are offering. But that happens only to the successful candidate. Why I have put the last one in red and in big font, this is to verify if the position budget fits what you want in a pay. If the job is supposed to pay 20,000, you need 200,000. So this is why mostly. How do I say I'm perfect for this job? I have explained this before in my earlier slides. You need to talk about your skill sets as per the job description in the job advertisement. and be relevant. And you could also give your example saying, for example, at my last job, I managed blah, blah. I managed a sales team of depending on what the job entails. And again, lastly, I'm coming to the end, the piece for interview, always prepare, research well, practice, be positive. Down here, I have said, remain positive even though you do not secure the job. Jeremiah 11, what does it say? Where it says that for God, has good plans for you. So this is what you need to say. Put it in your head. You don't have to say it. If you don't get it, it is painful. Process the pain and carry on with your life. So some of the strengths, I will not read. Practice them. Go to your books, go to the internet and read some of the strengths. What I want to say is that especially for weaknesses, you say a negative weakness, but again, you counter it with how you are working around it. For example, I focus too much on the details. I have a hard time letting go of projects. So what do you say? I delegate. I have been having this weakness, but I'm working upon it and I'm becoming a better person. Why do you want to work here? Never give generic answers. Always give specific examples when interviewers ask you. Always be specific and back up your statement. What are the interviewers looking for at the end of the day? They are looking for a candidate who has the potential, long-term potential, ability to produce results. I talked about productivity, enthusiasm, a team player, ambitious, value addition to the institution. How do you then end the interview? Of course, there's this provision where they ask any question. You're supposed to ask a thoughtful question. You could ask, for example, how will ought to have prepared before. So there we go, conclusion. In Colossians 3:23-24, it says, whatever you do, whatever kind of work you are doing, work heartily with all your heart and all the different ways that plays out in scripture, with Christ's character, with honesty, with diligence, and with integrity, humility. I can do things through Christ, which strength. This one, we keep saying it in the Adventurers Club. Romans 12:1. Therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship. And as I finish with this quote, brothers and sisters, the Mitch Gray quotes how to hire and keep great people. Spiritually healthy employees are the greatest assets and partners an organization can ever have. They are positive, solution-seeking, and unifying people. Interviewing is the single most critical phase of hiring. And finally, you must design a system for training and onboarding that gives people a real fighting chance at success. Thank you so much. These are some of the slides. I have tried to go through a lot because HR has a lot of explanations and processes. We thank God for the profession. I want to hand it over to Brother Macharia for any question that I can handle now. If any one of us is interested with the slides, then I will share with Kate to circulate to all interested parties. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Any questions? Brother Machari, are you there?
Yeah, sure. That was a wonderful presentation. I'm trying to see if there are questions coming through. I
have seen here, I can read one. What is the difference between a physical and virtual interview in terms of preparation? Brother Macharia, am I audible enough to proceed? I proceed. Okay. It is talking about what is the difference between a physical. Physical is face to face. The panelists here and opposite are the interviewer you meet. That is the physical interview. Virtual, of course, like now I'm doing a virtual presentation. But what happens in a virtual interview, like we did quite a lot during the pandemic period, is that you scan all for physical. Well, you ought to have, it is expected that you ought to have sent or submitted your applications and all the credentials and copies ahead of time. But when you appear for a physical interview, and that is the folder I was showing us, where you pass it along, in the boardroom for them to see. For a virtual interview, you ought to have done what? It's called authentic. No. The lawyers. How do we call the lawyers? Where they verify, original copy of the, certified copy of the certification of those documents, and that is virtual. So the questions still will, because we also check that, the questions also go through the same way, but now it is virtual. So what happens? The employer, to be organizers for you in terms of data and all that, if you're not able, you're facilitated to be in a place where it is noise-free and you're able to respond. So that is the difference. It is just virtual and all this. But depending on how, once you have scanned the documents, you can send them. Yes. And I've seen one of the interview where somebody had to show a certificate saying like this is Holy Bible, but certificate showing or indicating from the University of Nairobi or wherever it is. But again, with authentication, the employers will catch up with us whether we're being sincere or not. Okay, there is a question here saying, which question should you ask the panelist if given an opportunity? Great. You can, and this depends on the level of interview. For example, when we are talking now about young professionals, where it is entry jobs like internship or these other jobs, okay? You can say how soon, and this question cuts across, how soon will you wish to fill the position? They will tell you in a month's time, and that one, if that one has not been asked within. The other one could be like, you see, you have talked, you never ask about salaries. When I come, how much are you going to pay me? Or how soon am I gonna be promoted as soon as I join, okay? And therefore, the question is relevant to the job that you'll be shortlisted for. Okay, so you need to get and pick the last one. Don't ask a question that is form of an attack to the panelists. Okay, be polite and humble and ask a question that is relevant. And as much as possible, unless it's a political interview, avoid politics as much as possible. How soon can I work? How is my team looking like in the HR department, for example? Then they can tell you the staff establishment in HR is a total of 30 or 20. Okay, then that is how you start now seeing or, planning for the success. But remember, the nonverbal cues in the interview have a high percentage as you present yourself, because that is where they see the passion. Another question is, any question related, this is Brother Nyakamba, any question related to the subject at hand is welcome. Yes, that is a response. Is asking about the company culture a good question to the panelist? It is not a good question. I hope I want to sound polite. It is expected that you ought to have, this is part of the research. Because what if you find in a panelist, maybe it's the chief executive officer who is there, and the others are like professionals who are coming, like when we we undertake interviews with professional companies where they come and join us in the panel. Then you ask, then Brother John appears as a candidate, what's the culture of the institution? So again, it depends. My advice here is that avoid questions that will make you be judged not in a very good manner. And that is why you must prepare, practice. If you're going to work for the big five, the EY and the, and all these companies, that's Ernst & Young and the related, it is upon us, because there's nothing that is provided for you in a silver platter. You go out of your way and research. And that's why we say the power of knowing people, of connecting with people. You will not miss somebody who works in that company or a peer-related company. Yes. So culture might not be, it's not quite appropriate to ask the panelist. The other one here, can I share my health problems as part of my weaknesses? For example, I say, you have to, what happens, and that's why I say attention to detail, that sitting posture and all this. You can only try to be relevant in this exercise, because because when they do not offer you the job, are you going to sue us for discrimination, for ill health? So you really must study and find out, is it necessary for you? Because in one of the slides where I was talking about the job analysis, there is what we call person specification. And, all this. So if you must share, and assuming or hoping and prayerfully so that it is not going to work against you. It is a very wet area. And remember the Data Protection Act, the privacy, the code of conduct, is it necessary? Okay. But of course, there are these tests we undertake before you join the institution and when you're leaving, so that we know that you have come in. And even if we found you sick, that one is not a point for us not to offer you the job. Okay, because of discrimination and all these other things. Okay. Any question? This is my friend Paul Nyawita. Where a suit is not available, could a smart trouser and sweater suffice? Yes, depending on, again. Remember, Paul, my prayer is that you become a CEO very soon. And you have to go an extra mile just for that day. When I was growing up in the village many years ago, people used to borrow for, to go. I'm not telling us to go borrow. You can appear, but it depends on the position. You have been appointed as a finance director. Then you appear in a sweater, but again, it depends on the institution. That is why you need to, because even dress code is a form of culture across all institutions. So Paul, this is it. A trouser is okay, but men or male brothers, boy child, of course, when you appear, remember, Paul, we had a presentation last year around the same thing in church. You place one here and another one here. It is ish. That depends on where and how. Where and how. So for serious job seekers, always have one only. Just like we have special clothing for church, and you have one, you want to appear in a wedding. Yeah, it is, you have to invest in good things as well. So yes and no, depending on where you are going for, attending the interview. How do you follow up for feedback after the interview in case you don't get any feedback? Of course, as HR practitioners, we are not doing very well on this aspect. This is Charity Magoma. We are not doing very well on this aspect. What we do, okay, when the advert has been put, of course, we say that only shortlisted candidates shall be communicated to. But now for the interview, it is actually upon the recruiting agency to make follow-up. Again, there is no harm in you, Charity, writing to this company and asking, I did this. I have gone through this also where I have done interviews. There is no communication. And even when I write emails, there is no response. But that is bad practice. So you also need to go down, even if they don't talk to you directly that you did not make it, the way you were researching, also research, because you will find your position was filled up a long time ago. It is not a good thing. That is one of the painful pain points. That's one of the pain points in the practice. So it is a prayer that all my HR practitioners will do this, okay? Then Where a suit not available, that one we've talked. How do you, yeah. So I think this
Madam
is it for
Zipporah?
now. What you can do, you take my number, my email, and then we keep talking because HR is wide, completely wide, is a forest. Thank you so much. And over to you, brother Macharia. Over to you. Thank you. Share my contact.
Thank you very much. The contacts will be shared on the chat section, and the questions that have not been answered, maybe Madam Zipporah may answer them privately on the chat section where they have been asked. The program continues. Thank you so much, Madam Zipporah.